Hey guys, Zack here, and welcome back to another action figure review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Hiya Toys Godzilla 2019. Now, this version of Godzilla comes from the 2019 film Godzilla King of the Monsters, which, in my opinion, I think is a pretty overhated movie. I definitely wouldn't say it's perfect. There are some things I would have done differently. I think the writing in certain cases, I think, was kind of dreadful. They kind of tried to add jokes in places where there shouldn't be jokes, and not only that, but the jokes are just painfully unfunny. Um, some of the references I think were a little too much. I think the movie was a little too reference heavy. There are like some cute references, the outpost that watches Godzilla, that's Outpost 54. The outpost that watches Rodan is Outpost 56, and the outpost that watches Mothra is Outpost 61. Which is a little reference to the years that each of their respective movies came out. So stuff like that, I think is cute and fine. But then you have things like the Oxygen Destroyer, which not only feels really forced, but it also feels really disrespectful to the original 1954 film. So I would have done without that. And I've heard some people complain about the weather effects getting in the way. And though it didn't bother me too much, I will admit they might have went a little too far with the weather effects in certain cases. It doesn't look terrible in my opinion, but still, they could have toned it down a little bit. But, regardless, I still think Godzilla King of the Monsters is a great movie. Probably my favorite MonsterVerse movie. I do really like King of the Monsters, and I think it's a really good movie. Also, King of the Monsters came out, the same year I graduated high school, and, around that same time frame, too. End of May, so yeah, something like that. So King of the Monsters has a little bit of a special place in my heart for that reason alone. So yeah. Anyway, Hiya Toys. I've been hearing a lot of comments in my videos or reading a lot of comments in my videos saying, Zach, what are your thoughts on Hiya? Zach, are you gonna get the Hiya Toys Godzilla? And there are a few reasons why I wasn't gonna get the Hiya Toys Godzilla, but then I thought about it. I saw more of the praises, so I thought, you know what? The King of the Monsters Godzilla looks really good. I think I'll buy it. So here we are. And I've been hearing people say that Hiya Toys is the quote-unquote SH Monster Arts killer. I'm seeing a lot of people prefer the Hiya Toys figures over the SH Monster Arts figures. So, yeah. We'll, whether I think so or not, well, you're just gonna have to wait and find out. So, yeah, I have been rambling on for far, far too long. Let's get into this video already. Like usual, to start this review, we'll take a look at the paint. And the painting on this figure, I think, looks very solid. So let's take a closer look at that. So right off the bat, as you can see, pretty much the entirety of this figure is casted in this charcoal gray, which I think looks really nice. And in between all the scales here, like on the body and on the leg here, the dorsal plates, and especially the chest here, we have this nice, tannish coloration, which I think looks really good. I think it makes the detailing here pop very nicely. So, yeah, the painting in between the scales and everything looks really nice. And we get that, throughout the tail here, and it just looks good. And the underside of the tail here, again, we just have that same, tannish coloration, which, again, looks very good. His toenails and his fingernails, they're going to be a slightly darker shade of gray than the rest of the body. They are painted, but it is kind of hard to tell. You can tell with the toenails, there's, a little bit of a difference between, coloration here and, the foot, but the fingernails here, it might be a little tougher for some people. See, but the fingernails are painted, and they look very good. Going to the head here, we can see that the mouth is painted pink and has an ever so slight, glossy finish to it. It's not a lot, but there's, a little bit of, a glossy finish to it, which I think looks nice. And the eyes here, I think, are painted nicely. The eyes are painted yellow with black pupils. And I can't really zoom in because the camera won't really focus that well. But, yeah, they look pretty good. They're printed on very nicely. They're very small eyes, too. So, yeah, despite being so small, they do look very good. It's not like with the NECA Godzilla 2019 where the eyes were, that. The eyes here do look good. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the painting on this figure. And the painting on this figure, I think, looks really nice. Right off the bat, this is already a huge step up from the SH Monster Arts Godzilla 2019, which I'll bring in later in this video, but for right now, let's just focus on the figure at hand here. So, yeah, The painting on this figure looks great, so the painting here, I'd say definitely gets a pass. Something I forgot to mention with the paint before we take a look at the articulation, the teeth look a little sloppy. I mean, you can't really tell on camera, but in person you can tell that, the teeth have a little bit of a sloppy finish to them, and it just doesn't really look very good. It doesn't look terrible. It still looks okay, but I wish Hiya Toys kind of fixed the teeth a little bit as far as the paint went. So, yeah. I mean, like, the score is still going to stay the same. Like, the painting on this figure is still absolutely fantastic, so it definitely deserves that full pass, but it's just the teeth. Like, just a minor thing that I wish they touched up on. Now, we'll take a look at the articulation, and the articulation on this figure, I think, is pretty solid, so let's take a closer look. So right off the bat here, the mouth can open and close like so, and the tongue here's on a hinge joint as well. One thing that I do find a little annoying is that whenever you close the mouth and open it again, the tongue just kind of resets to being like that. And I wish, like, keep the articulated tongue, that's cool and all, but I wish they had it where, like, you could close the mouth and, like, the tongue would go down, with the bottom jaw. It's just a little annoying. Not the end of the world at all, but just one little nitpick that I find a little frustrating. But, yeah. The base of the head here is on a ball joint. And we do have some more joints throughout the neck here. So Godzilla can look around in various different, directions. Which I think looks nice. He can look up pretty decently as well. Now, he can't really look down, but honestly, I'm okay with that. The shoulders are on ball joints. And we have a bend in the elbow here. The wrists are on ball joints, so they can move like so. There's going to be a ball joint at the waist, though mine is very, very tight. I might have to take a hair blow dryer to this or something, but still, there's a ball joint here, and it does move a little bit, as is. The thighs are on ball joints. And we have a double bend for the knees. They don't really go back as far as usual, like, double bended knees, but still, like, these feel good to bend and pose, so I do like that. Going to the tail here, again, we just have a lot of different, segmented ball joints, which, I think, they feel good to pose, You're not going to get the most movement out of them, but you still will be able to get some, a pretty decent range of articulation. So, yeah. That's pretty much it. Let me just pose them for the ending bit here. That's pretty much it for the articulation on this figure. And the articulation, I think, is really good, It's not as, highly engineered as the SH Monster Arts articulation goes, which, that's to be expected of a figure of this quality, but still, or for the price tag, I mean. But, the articulation here I still think is very good. I think it's pretty much an upgraded version of the NECA Godzilla 2019. So, yeah, the articulation on this figure, I think, is good. I'd say it gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the sculpt. And the sculpting on this figure, honestly, I think is pretty much perfect. There is nothing here I change whatsoever. Everything here looks fantastic, and it just looks really good. Something I do want to point out, though, with the first Hiya Toys Godzilla figure, their Godzilla vs. Kong Godzilla, the very first one they did, you know what I'm talking about. That figure had, like, a visible joint right here on the jaw, and I'm really happy that Hiya Toys just kind of hid that, like, on both sides, there is no hinge joint. I think that looks good. And even with that figure, whenever you made that figure look up, like, all of, like, these segments of the neck here would, like, stick out, and it'd look really weird. I mean, they're kind of sticking out here, but it still doesn't look as bad as, how the original Hiya Toys Godzilla looked when it looked up all the way. So, yeah, I'm glad they fixed that for this figure. And, yeah, overall, the sculpting here, like I said, I think is pretty much perfect. So, the sculpting here, I'd say definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll take a look at the detailing. And the detailing on this figure is very good. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. So right off the bat here, we can see like all the little like ridges in the face here and all of, like the bits of like, wrinkles here and like the scaling here is detailed very nicely. Everything here is super well defined, like a lot of like the expression on his face I think looks really good. The side of his body here, again, just a lot of really nice detailing here, like the scaling and everything looks really good. Just a lot of great like scaling here. And even like on the arms here, just a lot of really nice scaling here. Like this like armored plating sort of look going on here. And I think just the detailing here just looks incredible. Like even the hands have a great amount of detailing here. And even like, the front side of the figure, like all of the like scaling here on the chest and like all of the wrinkles and everything, just detailed very nicely. The dorsal plates have a lot of really nice detailing here as well. Like again, like the ridges on like the insides here, I think are just detailed very, very nicely. We have a lot of really nice detailing here in the legs, like this scaling here, again, it's just detailed so beautifully. Everything here is just so well defined, and it just looks very good, and just a lot of really nice musculature here, like in the calves here, and even the feet have a lot of really nice detailing here as well. So I do like that. The tail, again, like all the ridges like on the side here, and like the little, like the smaller like dorsal plates on top here, I think are detailed very nicely. Everything here is just very, very nicely defined here. It just looks very good. And even the underside of the tail, like all of the creases and wrinkles and everything here are detailed absolutely beautifully. And we even have a fair bit of detailing for the feet here, like the underside of the feet. They didn't need to do that, but they did. And that's really appreciated. I know other figures do that, but still, I do think this is nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the detailing on this figure. And yeah, the detailing on this figure is very good. So the detailing here, I'd say, definitely gets a pass. Now, we'll do some size comparisons. Of course, to start, here we have the SH Monster Arts Godzilla 2019. And I think this differences speak for themselves. Like, Hiya Toys here, like, come on now. This is obviously the better figure. Like, I still don't mind this figure. Don't get me wrong, it's still not terrible, but compared to this guy, yeah, this guy's the better figure. Sorry, not sorry. Here we have the Bandai Movie Monster Series, Godzilla 2019. I still have my NECA Godzilla 2019, but he's in the basement right now, and I don't know where he is specifically in the basement, so to sort of fill the gap, here we have the NECA Godzilla 2014. And of course, here we have some hand sanitizer. And here we have Dr. If you can get him to stand. Here we have Dr. Billy Grant. The reason why people really liked NECA's Godzilla toy line was because they were the cheaper alternative to the SH Monster Arts line. If you wanted a decently articulated Godzilla figure but didn't have a lot of money, then NECA was the way to go. I mean, I'll be honest, like, as nostalgic as those figures are to me, or a lot of those figures are to me, there are some figures that, I'll admit, didn't look very good. Like, they didn't look good at all, but they got better over time. But still, like, for the price, it was not the end of the world whatsoever. NECA stopped doing Godzilla figures, so now it was mainly just Bandai making articulated Godzilla figures, and I think they're getting a little too comfortable with that, by upping the prices, by, not including accessories when they should, by, a lot of things that they shouldn't be doing, but they're doing, because they don't really have that rivalry anymore between, like, NECA. Or I don't want to say rivalry, but, like, NECA kind of gave SH Monster Arts, like, a run for their money, or just gave Bandai a run for their money, because they were articulated Godzilla figures for a cheaper price. And now that they're not doing Godzilla figures anymore, Bandai got a little too comfortable. Now we have Hiya Toys, Hiya Toys, they're giving us great-looking figures that, are decently articulated, and they are cheaper than the SH Monster Arts figures. So, I think with the release of Hiya Toys doing stuff, because Hiya Toys, like, Bandai has not made an SH Monster Arts Skullcrawler. Hiya Toys is making a Skullcrawler figure. Bandai hasn't made an SH Monster Arts Muto. Hiya Toys is making an SH Monster Arts Muto. And with them getting the rights to the Toho side of Godzilla, like, I think, Hiya Toys, I think they're going to be doing a lot with the Godzilla line as far as figures go. So I think Hiya Toys is going to, give Monster Arts a run for their money. And, hopefully, I'm not saying they will, but hopefully everyone at Bandai will look at what Hiya Toys is doing and think, all right, if we don't step up our game, then everyone's just going to go to Hiya Toys. So we need, like, an alternative. Like, we need to, like, get our act together, and we need to just fix, most of the problems we have with the Monster Arts line. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but it'd be nice if it did. So with all that said, should you get this figure? Absolutely. I really like this figure. I think the painting looks great. I think the articulation, I think, is pretty good. The sculpting, the detailing, great. Overall, I do really like this figure, and I definitely recommend that you pick this figure up. As far as price tags go, I got mine from Big Bad Toy Store for $50, which is not as cheap as NECA's Godzilla toy line, but for the kind of figure this is, like, I have no problem paying $50 because, like I said, everything about this figure is great. And yeah, it's a great figure, and $50 I think is a pretty fair asking point. So yeah, definitely got this figure if you can. Anyway, that is it for today. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace, Zack out.